rise and the fall from seven-figure business owner to homeless in the last 6 months, and these are the biggest lessons that I have learned. That success without purpose is empty. And here's what nobody tells you about running your own business, is that yes, you can earn a lot of money, but it comes at the detriment of your ability to be present. 6 months ago, you'd have probably looked at me and think, he's got it all figured out. I built a 7-figure business, and if you type in make money online, everyone, the world and its mother, are all pushing AI right now. And they will be right. You know, you can earn a lot of money. And, you know, we built AI agents that were so good that 98% of people had no idea they were on the phone to AI. And, you know, I hustled hard. I flew first class. I bought designer clothes. You know, I spoiled my family, and I thought that that was success. But I was overcompensating. You know, it was making a massive toll on my family, to the point that I didn't see my son and my partner for 6 months of the year. Every 2 weeks I would fly out to a different destination. That I was continually trading off 2 weeks of working hard on the business to be able to sustain 2 weeks of being with my family. But even then, you are not present. You know, I was out chasing deals, chasing money, you know, and my eldest children, they grew distant as a result of that. I wasn't able to be dad. I wasn't able to be them. You know, if I'm seeing my partner and my baby 6 months of the year, I saw them even less. And, you know, that has unfortunately resulted in being excommunicated from them, and I wouldn't blame them. You know, I haven't been there. And in my head, you are doing all of this for your family, when in reality I was doing it in detriment of my family. It's not something that I was doing alongside my family. Yes, I was able to take my son to a box in Tottenham Hotspur, stadium tours, you know, but they were just little glimpses. I haven't been there consistently. And the same for my partner. Last year I forgot her birthday. I was in a different country on a different time zone. And it wasn't until the next day that I realised, shit, that was her birthday yesterday. And I didn't even say happy birthday, and she didn't even mention it. And I then overcompensated by shopping for my partner, my baby and my kids like they were on holiday with me, that they were away with me. And that somehow made it okay for me to be absent. That I was doing this for them because I can give them all of this stuff. But there is no end to chasing money. There is no end to materialism. There is no end to chasing something that isn't there. You know, behind the scenes, I was just constantly spinning plates, clinging on to an image, trying to sustain a reality while simultaneously trying to escape that reality through, you know, painkillers and anti-anxiety medication and supplements, and, you know, I was just constantly in a perpetual state of movement. Even when I was in the UK, we'd go down the caravan, or we'd go to a spa hotel. And if it wasn't that spa hotel, it'd be another spa hotel. I didn't know how to be still. So along comes this health crisis, and it completely wipes me out. My whole world falls in, to the point I'm like, what is any of this anymore? And it completely dissolved that person. It completely made my identity crumble. And it made me reassess what is real and what is true for me. You know, I spent many days in bed crying, thinking, what is any of this? What is this here to teach me? I wish it would hurry up because this is bloody painful. And, you know, when the plates finally fell and I had to burn that business to the ground and hand it off to a colleague, that is when I realized that success without purpose is just empty. You know, you can earn a lot of money and you can become a service provider, but quite often you want more for the people that you serve than they do for themselves. So then that's when it stripped me of everything. You know, I was in complete burnout. And this, you know, I went through a purging process, not only of places, the business, my identity, but also people that liked that version of me, that have magically fallen away from my life. And it's like, we no longer vibrate on the same frequency. And, you know, that's when I realized, once I got still, I gave up the pain relief through this process. I was able to start focusing on just being, not having to be somewhere, not constantly being, you know, having to, because I'd go out on a Saturday with, like, well, what are we doing today? Fish and chips on a Saturday, roast on a Sunday, ice cream, come home, check flights, buy dumb shit online that I didn't need. And then I'd be constantly, right, what's the next, what's next, what's next, what's next? And I didn't sit and appreciate and didn't sit still enough. I was just constantly on the move. And that comes at a cost. So this is the rebirth. This is when I was like, so what is the next step for me? And for weeks and weeks, as I say, I spent in bed crying, thinking, you know, complete identity collapse of what is any of this? What does any of this mean? Why is this happening to me? And every part of my being is so used to enforcing my will and taking action on into reality and creating, that it was teaching me a completely different way, a way of surrendering, a way of sitting with it, a way of being that I wasn't used to, that this isn't normal life. And in my head it was like, well, I'm living the extraordinary life, this is what extraordinary people do. But it's like, what's the point of going on these holidays, and what's the point of going to all of these nice restaurants and spa when I'm just constantly distracted and I can't be there? I'm giving presents, as in, you know, designer goods or trainers or whatever, you know, sweets from the US, instead of my presence, of my actual being there for people. And in the last 6 months, it's really taught me, you know, that I'm missing my son growing up. I'm missing my other 2 children growing, to the point that I went and met my youngest. I didn't even recognize my eldest son. That was how much time had passed since I'd seen him last. And that was just like, is this who I have become? Is this what all of this is about? You know, and what I want to do now is, through this rebirthing process, is I've done a lot of research online. And if you've been on social media of late, you can see how divisive it is, how much fear-based content is being pushed to the masses. We're constantly having war and politics shoved down our throats. And, you know, these algorithms continually push content that makes us pay attention, and then before you know it, you spent 3-4 hours consuming this fearful content. Well, I want to create the anti-that, the anti-AI, the anti-fearful social media. You know, I want to, instead of buying other people's brands, I want to create my own that is going to serve the world, and use social media to bring people together through connection, build community. You know, a logo and a brand that stands for something timeless, that is going to outlive me. You know, hence why I want it to be about the movement rather than me. So my children can be a part of it if they want to. And this isn't about me. And this is what this has really taught me. I went back to my Kabbalah books, and this Becoming Like God by Yehuda Berg, or no, I think it's by Michael Berg. The desire for the self alone transforms into the desire for the sake of sharing. And this idea that I had was like, when I get to 8 figures, then I will do that. And I was like, no, this needs to be the thing. I was like crying out to the heavens, you know, what is it you want from me? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? And I was literally woken up 1 a.m. in the morning and boop, sent to me. Buy the .com, get the social media handles, and kindness and cool is what came. And then I went deep on doing, you know, research on other influencers and other businesses and other brands online, and, you know, learning about how you can make that the thing. You can travel the world and serve humanity, and you can bring everyone and tell other people's stories. This isn't about me and first class flights and me and designer clothes and me and a private box at Noel Gallagher. That again, you know, what do I really love? I really love giving. Well, let's, you know, broaden that, not just to my friends and my family and my children and my immediate network. Let's do it on a broader scale, and let's create a vehicle where we can, you know, put the heart back into social media. And because kindness isn't weakness, it's power. And together we can make kindness cool again. And that is the company motto. You know, I'll even get one of those, if I don't get attacked, of course, I would need to make it look vastly different. Because as I say, everything is just so divisive at the moment that you can't even wear a Make America Again hat just because of the negative / political connotations. Because I think that would be a great thing to have. But of course, you know, in this day and age, it would create some kind of friction, and this is what we need to dissolve. You know, I went from 7 figures to nothing to something that is going to be worth everything. So if you've ever felt lost and you felt ripped away, and, you know, you can rise again. Failure isn't final, and failure isn't fatal. So subscribe, join the movement. Let's rise together, and let's make kindness cool again.